I stood there, phone in hand, disbelief gripping me as a wave of faux shock washed over my voice. "What do you mean my account is overdrawn? That's impossible," I said, humor lacing my words as Brandon's sister launched into a tirade about the rent money he'd vowed to pay her. "He did what?" I queried, my tone steady, allowing her to think I was only now uncovering my husband's deceit. "I am Emily Adams, and my husband, Brandon, has just become the grandest mistake of my life, though perhaps not in the way he imagined." That Sunday morning, waking to an empty bed and a venomous note pinned to the fridge, felt like a slap I should have seen coming. "Goodbye. Never loved you anyway." Real classy, Brandon. As a forensic accountant in Chicago, with 15 years of untangling financial fraud for some of the Midwest's top firms, I was far from the naive spouse Brandon thought he'd outsmarted. When his behavior shifted 3 months prior, I knew my husband was plotting a clear-cut escape. His sudden curiosity in our retirement accounts after years of disinterest, the secretive phone calls, suspicious vanishing acts, and the way his computer screen mysteriously changed when I entered a room, it was textbook deception. What Brandon failed to realize was that I noticed every dubious transaction, every concealed purchase, and each attempt to discreetly shift funds. Unknown to him, I documented each misstep, snapped photos of every suspicious move, and sent it all directly to my attorney. He wandered happily into his escape plan, oblivious to the fact that by then, I had ring-fenced our savings, flagged accounts, and braced for his anticipated moves. So, when those fraud alerts spiked my phone on that fateful Monday, all I could do was smile at the chaos he thought he had steered. The relentless buzzing, alerts on declined transactions, failed withdrawals, sealed accounts, rang like a symphony to my ears. My fingers traced a folder by my side, marked just in case, packed with months' worth of evidence that promised to dismantle not only his escape plan, but his very future. Listening to his sister's frantic calls, a twinge of sympathy rose within me for Brandon. Only barely. You might think learning that my 8-year marriage was a figment shattered me, but therein lies the value of a forensic accountant. Patterns reveal the lie beneath the facade. I initially crossed paths with Brandon at a charity gala 6 years back. He seemed the epitome of charm, successful, if his words were to be believed, and appeared to have his life neatly pieced together. As an investment advisor, he drove a sleek car and spun tales of building a future together, his confidence and ambition leaving quite the impression. Reflecting now, the signs were glaring, like how he'd dodge questions about his clients or his past. Yet the first 3 years rolled on smoothly, or so I thought. We bought that idyllic home in the Chicago suburbs, mapped out exotic getaways, and chatted about starting a family. But little things just never added up. Whenever I broached his old colleagues or student loans, he'd deflect with ease. "You don't trust me?" he'd ask, turning the lens on me in classic manipulative fashion. Time and again, I've caught such tactics in my work, emotional manipulation to maintain financial opacity. Yet, I chose to overlook it, wanting to believe in us, in him. That was my first miscalculation. Then came omens that could no longer be ignored. Last Christmas, Brandon proposed we keep separate bank accounts for holiday expenses, romanticizing it with the guise of surprising each other. However, his hidden credit card statements told a different story. Luxury jewelry purchases for items I never received, weekend business trips that lacked any related conference trace, mysterious calls dropping to voicemail in my presence, all weaving a troubling pattern. Many wives might have confronted him outright, but I was not like the others. My expertise led me to sift through bank statements, scrutinizing transactions, crafting a case. Each time he believed his deceitful tactics were foolproof, he only handed me more leads. As I observed his attempts to drain our accounts, I wore a facade of oblivion. "Late again?" he'd ask with feigned concern, and I'd respond, "Just catching up on some cases." Truth was, those cases centered on his very actions. 3 weeks ago marked the breaking point. One late night, truthfully working late, my colleague Susan, a storm of nerves, rushed to my desk. "Emily, you need to see this," she urged, her voice trembling. The Thompson file we were working on contained shocking revelations. There was Brandon's name, intricately tied to suspicious activities in the cases we were investigating, not as a witness or target, but a person of interest. The same veiled patterns appearing in our finances paralleled his professional dealings. He wasn't merely abandoning me, he was fleeing from something far greater. There's more, Susan whispered, scrolling further through the documents. He's implicated in 3 other fraud investigations across different states, using various aliases. The same scheme, pursuing successful women, marrying them, and vanishing with their money. The last known was in San Diego before he resurfaced here in Chicago. The pieces suddenly aligned. The charm, the secrecy, his vested interest in our finances, all part of his modus operandi. To him, I wasn't a wife, but the next mark in his sinister plot. Yet, unbeknownst to him, he had tangled with someone who made a career out of unearthing fraudsters just like him. That night, I sat at our kitchen table, scrutinizing every detail with a fresh perspective. His loving facade, the manipulation attempts, and the gradual isolation from friends and family all revealed themselves as clear parts of his strategy. I found myself laughing into the night, not from humor, but irony. Brandon had chosen poorly, targeting someone whose expertise lay in unwinding schemes just like his. The ensuing 3 weeks were spent in perfecting my plan. Each morning, I bade him goodbye with a peck, acting obliviously, and each night, I listened to his work lies while my records grew thicker with each telltale sign of deceit. My calculated moves unfolded, securing our finances, informing the FBI Financial Crimes Unit, and harnessing evidence that could not only shield me, but aid his earlier victims. "You seem different lately," Brandon once noted, gauging my expression over dinner one evening. "Everything okay?" Thinking of the intricate trap in place, I simply responded, "Just tired from work. You know how it gets." He nodded sympathetically, convinced I was burning midnight oil for his own crooked dreams. It hardly occurred to him to pick up on the spark in my eye that screamed knowledge of his impending downfall. Con artists like him, in their arrogance, never fathom being coned in return. Monday set the stage for his grand exit. My phone erupted with bank alerts, suspicious activity, inflated withdrawal attempts, maxed credit cards. Calls followed. His sister Kelly in tears over borrowed funds, and then, unexpectedly, a woman identifying as Rachel Carter from San Diego reached out. "You're still married to him?" I asked, gripping the phone tighter as the truth sank in. "Yes," she admitted, fury in her tone. "He vanished with my savings 3 years prior. I've tried to track him down ever since." I chuckled at the synchronicity. Funny thing, here he's known as Brandon Adams, and I had a feeling we'd cross paths. Within that hour, Rachel and I pooled our intel. Same roguish smile, the bogus investment advisor narrative, the draining accounts, all the hallmarks of his scam. But there was one variable that disrupted his plans. Me. "I've accumulated enough to take him down," I informed Rachel, adding, "but I'll need your cooperation to entrap him." At that moment, a text from Brandon blinked on my screen. "Sorry, can we meet one last time?" Perfect. True to the pattern Rachel mentioned, he re-emerged post-disappearance, looking to manipulate an opening to grab at remaining assets. I showed the message to my attorney, her eyes alight with strategy to propel our strike. We set a coffee shop meet, and there Brandon waited, epitomizing remorse. His eyes bloodshot, clothes disheveled, embodying a picture of regret. "Emily, I'm sorry," he began, reaching out across the table, desperation in his voice. "But I panicked. Some bad investments." His voice trailed. I withdrew my hand, momentum on my side. "How deep are you in, Brandon?" I queried, watching his eyes flicker to life with a glimmer of hope that I might falter. "About $200,000, but with a plan to rectify this mess. All I need is access to our emergency fund." Feigning contemplation, I watched, relishing his discomfort. "Oh, you mean the one you tried to empty yesterday?" I replied smoothly. A quick asymmetrical shift marked his face before restoring his fabricated sincerity. That was a lapse, he stammered. A rash decision. But help me now, and I'll disappear again? I interrupted. Or linger until you drain me dry like you did in San Diego? His facade cracked entirely for a heartbeat, genuine surprise etched across. You know the irony, I continued, sliding a bulging folder onto the tabletop. Had you done your homework, you'd realize crossing a forensic accountant wasn't a smart move. At that precise second, 2 FBI agents flanked our table. As I stood, aligning my coat, I remarked coolly, Brandon, I recommend securing counsel, a competent one. As Brandon was escorted away by the FBI, a call from Susan hit my phone at the perfect moment. We nailed him, she declared, her voice ringing with victory. The forensic deep dive they conducted uncovered offshore accounts I'd flagged earlier. Brandon wasn't merely swindling spouses. He orchestrated a vast Ponzi scheme, with fraud tallying up to the millions. Through the coffee shop window, I watched him recede into federal custody, looking a mere shadow of the self-assured man who believed he'd pulled off the ultimate con. How many victims? I asked, bracing myself for the grim truth. 23, Susan replied, covering 5 states, with 12 false marriages, all targeting finance-savvy women. But the real kicker was his ambition to expand, a new investment firm on the horizon that would reap high net worth clients by abusing my credentials. The corners of my mind revisited those curious, late-night inquiries into my cases. Beneath the guise of concern was his groundwork to exploit my standing for his grandest scam to date. If his greed hadn't overridden him, had he stuck to the serial marriage con, he might have escaped scrutiny. Again, I mused aloud, navigating the delicate balance between disbelief and vindication. Susan's voice persisted. Remember the country club subscription he insisted on last year? Turns out, it served as an avenue to meet his subsequent mark, Caroline Mitchell, the hedge fund CEO. The scenario clicked into place. Brandon scripting his next act beneath the guise of domestic stability, orchestrating schemes while golf games lingered in backdrops, where loyalty should have resided. But Caroline was both an astute hedge fund manager and a staunch ally, colluding long before with me to document Brandon's every feigned stumble. Let me guess, I ventured. Caroline afforded you every breadcrumb he left? Messages, calls, transcripts from club rendezvous? Precisely, Susan gushed over the details. Brandon had, unwittingly, scripted our case himself, each calculated move sealing his fate tighter. Laughter spilled over, visions of him wielding perceived control over a roomful of allies. Celebrated moments converted into solemn evidence of betrayal. His masterwork absent of craft. Have you heard from Kelly? The frantic call earlier got me curious. Well, another twist, Susan interjected. She's no sister. She's his long-term accomplice, playing the role to uphold the narrative of urgent aid right before he vanishes. Arrested in Chicago minutes ago. The enormity of the deception pressed down, provoked awe not from admiration, but the audacity of it all. Years spent crushed into orchestrated chaos, not realizing the snare drawing shut. And one more discovery, Susan added, waiting a beat. His real name isn't Brandon Adams, it's Michael Roberts, wanted across the Canadian border for fraud since 2015. I stepped back, reveling at the spiral still drawing them all in. Well then, Michael Roberts, enjoy your impending reality. Post-courthouse, a hurried message came through. An unknown number with audacious bite, suggesting retaliation brewed. As I skimmed the subsequent email, family snapshots through my windows, a chill not of fear, but indignation lined each nerve. The forward button glowed beneath my thumb, documents heading toward Susan and my attorney with unified priority. My call to Agent Ryan cut quick and urgent. Agent Ryan, it seems there's an ambitious actor in our play. We're ahead of you, she assured, having traced the threat to James Foster, a Phoenix cellmate of Brandon's, enlisted for muscle and intimidation. Unseen, yet they suspected his local sphere of presence over the account trail. Yet now, Agent Ryan paused purposely, there's movement on an account within your household connection. Home, a beacon of reprieve, now potentially compromised by the laptop, likely still aglow. I urgently reached Rachel, scores of warnings burning through our line. Immediate danger at her doorstep. Her intake of breath, waited, alerted me her ordeal wasn't hypothetical. Kelly's here, Emily, she whispered, slight fear tinging tones. My mind leapt through the expected outcomes. Rely on the plan, Rachel. Then, chaos crackled through our phone link. The sound clear, irrefutable. My voice strained, leading ease into prominence in a friend's prod. Acknowledging this final gambit, her calm response ushered moments of suspense. Evidence streams directly to agency platforms, Rachel stated, articulating our prior alignment. Surveillance penetrated familiar sanctuaries, once home, now defensive fortress, cradling conclusions in fervency. Flares along perpetual watches answered unheeded ambition, with flashing lights outside my residence, rattled illusions coalescing under state jurisdiction. Ringing clear from where once lie emboldened lures, now returned futile echoes, returning home, visibility entwined legal scruples along warm greetings, Agent Ryan, parting comforts from intermediaries serving their posts. Brilliantly played, she extolled, reflections paired like former mirrors. Such desperation reflects comfort's erosion in reliance, I shared. Historical humor, tinged pitiful, never palatable. Each closing avenue introducing the very fear Brandon imbibed through others. Fade to resolve, turning page against possessive chains he'd tempted lest they strangle beneath adorned pretexts of concern. What joy springs upon a stranger cast behind bars, yet broader redemption into perpetual safety molds. Costs forward earned sever and stroke potential pitfalls born from privilege? Months later, courtroom light matched the conviction brandished before pity waned or threaded this sequence. Destiny unfold true nature, each turn borrowed passage serving justice in permanency. Brandon, Michael, whomever your guise, each layer unraveled promises another enhancement of finite just reward. 2 months rolled by, and there I was, seated in the courtroom with unblinking eyes trained on Brandon, now Michael, as he faced judgment for his crimes. Gone was his brash smile, overshadowed by a face marked with despair and defeat. The judge's words echoed through the chambers. For multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and witness intimidation, this court sentences you, Michael Roberts, to 25 years in federal prison. His eyes caught mine briefly in transit, revealing the anguish of a man who once scrawled, "Never loved you anyway," on my kitchen note, now confronting an endless future devoid of cunning manipulations. Kelly and Foster were dealt their fates next. In plea deals struck to the lacquered room's shock, they'd serve substantial time, consolidating the case against Michael's web of deceit, branching across 3 nations. Beside me, Rachel squeezed my hand appreciatively. Row by row, women summoned fell silent. Tales of betrayal mounting hope's zenith, justice lighting hearts subdued but never defeated. Agent Ryan approached as echoes waned. The Bureau acknowledges your skills. Have consulting ventures crossed your vision? Her gratitude woven with opportunity lingered. My mind visualized new purpose. Brandon had not broken, only strengthened the resolve that walks beyond ignorance or doubt. Shortly thereafter, life anew sprouted where shadows slept. 6 months post-sentencing dawned a vibrant stage. FBI's Financial Crimes Division spotlighted my breakthrough against such predator trappings. Behind me, presentation projected the Roberts case as testament to what flawless strategy could achieve. My words addressed those gathered. Today's schemer need not wield weapons, trust, manipulation, technology their tools, but trails embed lasting footprints. The agent's declaration bore more. Program success heralded 3 significant ring downfalls within that month. Unified resilience in figures changed. Rachel emerged pivotal, extending our insight into target choice, inherent vulnerabilities exploited against benevolent spirits. A new message pinged, a phoenix to which I now rose. Susan's alert magnified yet another victim. Vancouver, not faceless, but newly found within networks fetched across invisible digital crossings unyielding. Stripped formerly, the woman faced despair, but this time stood promise. Legacies bared by unlocked accounts he'd thought unreachable cast strength anew through topside resolve. My living quarters commandingly framed Lake Michigan. Reflection cast harmony, reconnecting essence with core ideals. Sunset spun awe, ricocheted on waters. Ironic elements Brandon envisioned dominion by stroke rather helped form. Crafting empathy collective, salvation-born shared awareness firmly roots vigilance among unwelcome foes. No, my journey embraced hope. Not that of survivors refusing anonymous lanes, but vibrant hues instructing networked chords woven forth from shadows skipping betrayal's chaos. Redemption cumulates within from chosen paths and spirited strife. Every theft thwarted witness toiled resolve, myself, not subdued, rather bursting upon horizons ushered strength. Brandon had thought to render fractious. In time, he merely fueled that new fire's exact cultivated response. Partners beyond expected outcomes. No femme remains unmourned within Song Central to future progress. All ties unmoored bask in sanctuary dedicated endgame, self-chosen. Thieves no more arise unknown sun's reckoning. Countless women converge, thought turn native. Unmatched trial binds broken breeds change into systems forewarn best paths forth. Perseverance embodied,